Good morning, guys. Thanks for joining us. I know it's not super early for some of you guys, but for the West Coast people, it is earlier. So thank you guys for waking up with us on the Rise and Learn. A quick introduction if this is your first time joining the Rise and Learns, or if we haven't met in a meeting. My name is Jasmine. I lead customer success here with Pulsa. I've been with the company for, I think, 4 years now. And my job is really about making sure that the features that we have, the tools that we have are accessible and good for you guys to use. You guys are enjoying using them. You guys are getting use out of them. So we're really excited to share this feature with you guys today. And then online, of course, we have Marcello. We also have Megan, and then we have Dave. So you guys might see them jumping in. Let me, oops, go to the next side. Yes, so this feature and then Pulse's goal kind of as a whole is to make your jobs easier. So we're really excited to share it with you. Let me go ahead and jump into the dashboard. So I'm actually going to stop sharing this and then share the dashboard. Okay, so I'm in the dashboard. Like I said, this feature has been in here for about 2 weeks. So you may have already seen it, may have already started playing with it. But if you haven't yet, it's going to be here on your menu to the left. Currently, it's not yet supported on the mobile or the app, just because of the information that it's displaying. It'll show up a little bit, or would show up quite differently in the app. So we just have it on the desktop for now, but it's available there if you go on your computer. Great. So when you first log into the reporting dashboard, everything that you have in your account, everything that your company owns will be visible to you. Oh, let me clear some filters. There we go. And so there's a lot of information on the screen, but you'll see as we kind of go through building the report, it gets easier and easier to kind of interpret. Let me start off just by going over some of the metrics that we have, and everything else I'll kind of hit as I go through the guided tutorial. Oh, and I forgot to mention, we'll have some time for questions towards the end, but if you guys have any questions along the way, feel free to put it in the chat, and then we can also answer those as we go. So yeah, feel free to answer any question or ask any questions, put any questions or comments that you guys have along the way in the chat, and that'll be great. Awesome. So the metrics that we have up at the top are these columns, the ones that are displayed. You can click this blue text here, columns 8 out of 11, and all of the metrics that we have available will be displayed. Let me go ahead and remove one, and then it'll immediately update. And these metrics, a lot of this information has been available in the dashboard from the beginning. Pulsa has always given metrics to be able to track this information, but this reporting feature is really making it easier to view all of your assets at once and to analyze your data at scale. So this way you can really start to compare groups, similar customers, and routes, regions, things like that. Whereas before, if someone were to ask you, hey, how often are you visiting X customer? What are your average fills for a certain customer type, or certain tanks? What does that look like? It might not have been as easy to find that information before, but with reporting, it's definitely super easy. It's right there, very easy to build, very easy to find. So yeah, so that is our columns, and like I mentioned, the reporting tool is going to really help you compare tanks, regions, customer types, things like that. And so as you go through it, you may start thinking, okay, I'm really going to want to segment my customers a little bit differently, or I have these tags, we're going to want to do these different tags, and that's awesome. That's going to allow you to dig deeper into certain customers and just kind of learn even more about what is important to your business. So yeah, so let me go ahead and first filter the data that I have, because of course right now I have all of our sensors, but I want to compare just kind of a segment of them. The filter panel is going to include a lot of information that you guys are already familiar with using, such as tags, products, locations, sensor types, etc. We also have these filters based on the specific metrics up at the top. If you know kind of more precisely what you're looking for example, average fill, or how many days in between your fills, etc. But I am going to just go and choose, let's say, a fast food restaurant, a bunch of McDonald's, and then at these McDonald's, maybe I want to make sure I'm just looking at the McDonald's that have 750-pound CO2 tanks. I'm just going to go ahead and type in 750 into the search bar, but you can also go into product and then sort for the type of product that you want to filter. So you can layer your filters and just make sure that you're looking for exactly what you want. And then up at the top left, we have our date range. Let me go ahead and do 6 months. So now my report is pulling up all the information from these assets in the last 6 months. And as you've noticed, just from clicking or updating that date range, we previously had a bunch of missing spaces. Now they are filled in. The missing spaces were kind of just, there was no data at that time. Maybe no fills for like the last week I was looking at, but now it's filled in. Great. And then let me make it a little bit bigger so hopefully it's a little bit easier to see.
That looks good.
Okay. Thank you. And then the report unit up at the top, you can select the unit of measurement that you want to see your report in. Because again, you're probably going to compare certain customers, certain gas types. And so if you want to see all of your carbos in pounds, you can do that. If you want to see your carbos in inches, you can also do that and you'll see it updates. Let me go back to pounds. So you'll notice all of my information is here. So for all of my carbos, of course, I have my conversions for pounds, but if for some reason I did want to see it in a different unit that I may not have available, we do have an option to update that information. I'll go back to that a little bit later, but yeah, you can update all of your report in the metric that you want to see. And then lastly, let me update my sorting. I'm just going to sort by average fill percentage, 0 to 100%. There we go, just to make it a little bit more easier, a little bit easier to consume. Oh, we got some things in the chat, I think. Oh, Greg says you're having issues editing the date ranges prior to reports. We'll come back to that one, Greg, just to make sure, or to kind of ask more about what's going on there. Okay, and then a couple people. Awesome. Okay, so that's essentially setting up your report. Now you have information. It was very simple to do, very easy to highlight what you want to look at. From here, we can start kind of diving into the metrics, like what can I infer from this information? You can look at the columns alone, and there are some pretty easy things to infer right away. So a couple of things that we could look at are average fill percentage. So this is going to be the amount of product that you are delivering to a customer on average. So for example, this top customer, we are visiting them every 37.2 days on average for the last 6 months and delivering only about 25% of the tank. Let me click into that and take a look. So again, this customer is never getting any lower than 75%, 85%, and we're kind of just topping them off. If I go back to the report, I can also see the amount of days remaining at the time of these fills. So on average, there are still about 121 days remaining at the time of fill before the customer would be close to getting empty, but we're going there every 37 days. So that's an example of a customer where, hey, we're topping them off, we're visiting them quite a bit. you guys know your customers. There may be areas where you have to go every however many times, or maybe they're next to a really big customer that you have to go to every time, so it makes sense to top them off frequently. But in other cases, they might just be on a weekly route. Nobody has kind of taken a look at. We could extend it out for a few weeks and just kind of prioritize our resources and send the drivers out to a different location for this particular example. So yeah, looking at your average fills, kind of aiming towards a higher fill percentage, delivering as much product as you can, looking at your days remaining and your days between fill, making sure that those numbers are as far apart as you can be without running your customer too low, but not having to send someone out too often, if that makes sense. And let me take a look. So as we scroll through these reports, a couple of things I want to highlight are this missing data information. You may see some of your sensors, they'll say missing 28%, missing 10%, etc. All that is telling you is that for the period of time that you've selected, that sensor does not have information available for that percentage of time. Excuse me. So that could be because that sensor is a fairly new install, or let's see, let's click into it. Yeah, that sensor may be a new install, or maybe the customer may have unplugged the gateway for a period of time, and so we have that missing bit of information. That's just a detail to let you know if you are in your report and you're comparing two customers to each other, and one has like a high percentage of missing data. It may not be apples to apples, or you may want to wait an extra month or two just to kind of compare if they are similar in usage, in fill data, etc. Let me go back to that same customer and show off a couple of things with reporting. So in addition to reporting, we also updated the sensors analytics page. Down here, we used to kind of have just some usage information, or some fill data. You'll notice that now we have fill data, usage data, and product data. So fill data, of course, is based off of just the fill information, usage on the usage information, and then product is going to be a historical record of all of the products that have been connected to the sensor. Where this might come into play is if you've had a sensor on a 450 tank, and that customer gets upgraded and now they have a 750 tank, but the sensor stayed the same. Previously on your graph, you may have noticed if you scroll back enough, the graph may have always been at this level, and then all of a sudden it jumps up and now we're kind of reading something else. Now we kind of provide more information as to why that may be. We'll tell you exactly when the products ended and started, just so there's more information on the graph of, hey, why does my data look so different back here? But moving forward, it all looks differently. So yeah, and this was one I had pulled up because there was a bit of missing data. Let me show you something very cool that we can now do with the reporting tool. So in order to make sure that your reports are as accurate as possible, we also have the capability of adding, deleting, and editing fills as needed. Because of course, our sensors are detecting the information that they think is happening, but there are certain instances that are going to make that information not necessarily true. For example, in this case, where a gateway may have been turned off at the customer site, if a fill did happen during this period, on our side, we unfortunately weren't able to record it because the gateway was offline, but we know a fill did happen, and so we want to make sure that that's included in our reports. So maybe I want to go ahead and add that information in. So the way that I would do that, I would just highlight the period where I know the fill would have happened, let's say May 14th, and then let's see, what's the fill height here? 54 inches. And then I'll go down to fills, view and edit fills. I'm gonna go ahead and add a manual fill and say, whoops. Go to May 14th, start size, we'll say 12 inches, and then the end size, we'll say 54 inches, and then I'll save that refill. And then now you can see a refill has been added to my graph. The metrics for this sensor are going to change. Just to let you know that that additional fill did happen during that period. And this customer used X amount and we added this amount of product to that site. Let me take a quick pause. Any questions so far on what I've mentioned, or I guess what I've shown so far, adding fills, editing fills? I have a few more examples of I guess cases where you may edit or kind of change a fill, but any questions or comments so far?
So some customers have asked the question about when you change the product, will that change in the past what those fills were? So let's just say that they had the wrong fill height. It's a 75-inch tank, not a 50-inch tank or whatever. They put a new product, they put the new fill height, and then does that change everything in the past, or that's only moving forward?
It would only be moving forward. So when a new product is updated, you'll see that the information from that point and moving on is going to be corrected. So if your 100% is this, you'll see that on the graph it shows up as 100%. But at least you will have the information of, hey, you did have a different product selected before. This is exactly what your empty size and full size was at that time. So if you are seeing some discrepancies or just kind of some differences in your graph, now it's much easier to kind of interpret why that might have been.
So Jasmine, you're saying that if it is wrong previous and now it is correct, you're saying that the previous data, when we do the reports, that will be skewed until it is, say, like the last 2 weeks, until that data is fully there for 2 weeks or whatnot.
Are you saying for the forecasting or for?
Yes, for forecasting.
The forecasting so the forecasting, I guess, is always based off of the sensor data and the sensor usage, which shouldn't really change because the sensor is going to be reading what it's reading. Typically, when a product is incorrect, what that is going to mess with is your percentages. For example, like if someone sets the tank is too small, like something is a 450 when it's actually a 750, your full height may have been like 54 inches instead of 48 inches. So now instead of it always reading above 100%, it's going to read closer to actually just 100%.
Okay, coins. Thanks much.
No problem.
And if a customer makes a change, they will see multiple dotted lines when those happened in time. So if it was 100 inches as a fill height, they'll see it here when we change it to 75. So it'll let you know also what date that was. And then, so for example, this sensor here has only had one product on it. If we ever change the product, you're just going to see a new separate line from that date. So this is also helpful too if you're calibrating. You'll be able to say, okay, what was on this sensor last? So now it's just a lot easier to surface that information.
Just going or kind of touching on the full size as well. This is just another update that happened at the same time as reports, but I really love this. It's very simple, but I feel like it's so effective. It's just the dotted white line up at the top where you've set your 100%. So when things happen where an incorrect product may have been set, you can go onto that sensors page and you may notice, hey, we're always going over the fill or we're always going under the fill. Is there something going on here? Do we just need to make edits to the product? So it's a really nice just visual cue of like, hey, maybe this is something that we kind of need to look into. So hopefully you guys have noticed that and like it. Similarly, there is also a line for the empty size, but on this particular sensor, it's at 0. So it's just kind of laying over. But if your empty size were for some reason to be above 0, you'd also see that represented on the graph.
Yeah, and that's our recommendation. Put empty as the true zero. Sometimes customers will put empty as what they want their reorder point to be, and that will also skew the reports too. If you say empty is 200 pounds, then when you're at 250, it'll basically tell you that you're closer to zero than what you are. So it'll artificially also make your fill ratios look better if you don't put the true empty.
Let me go back now and kind of show a few more examples of why you may need to change sensor data. So here we have a differential pressure sensor where we see a really high fill detected at a certain point. With a differential pressure sensor, for customers that may be using differential pressure sensors, you guys may know if someone is working on the tank or someone may have just left one of the lines closed, you might see that sensor shoot up or shoot down. Our system is just detecting, well, it's a little bit fancier than that, I'm sure, but, or I know so, but when there is a large spike, we are going to likely detect that as a fill. And so we know that this isn't a fill, 289% wasn't dropped off at this customer site. And so this is an example of where we know something went on site. It was detected as a fill. We know it's not. Let me go ahead and correct this so that it is more accurate for our information. So again, I'm just let me take the information of what it's supposed to be here. 750. And I'm just going to highlight that erroneous fill, go down to fill, view, edit fill, and then you can see here the end size, it is set to 2,307. We know that's not correct, so I'm just going to go ahead and update that to 750. Because again, this may have just been someone leaving a line closed after the fill of the tank, and then it was quickly corrected, but we just want to make sure that that doesn't mess with our data. So it's updated. You can see that the fill line, that bright green line is now shorter. It's a smaller fill and it's right at our 100% mark. So this data isn't being thrown off or it's going to look wonky in our report. Let me go back here. I think I had found. Oh, and then that's another example of like a missing fill, which we had covered. And where this missing or this very high fill before, it was down towards the very bottom of our list because our average fill was skewed so much higher because of that kind of instance on site. It's corrected, so now the average fill is a little bit lower, but it's more accurate now. And then again, you can edit, add, and delete fills anywhere that you would find them, just to make sure your information is accurate as possible. So with this one, again, we see kind of like a smaller fill that we'd want to remove. I can highlight it, go into view and edit fills. I'm just going to go ahead and delete this one, save that one, and I'm going to update this one here to 750. And I'm just doing 0 to 750, but if you, for those of you that have metered trucks, you likely have like a more precise record of what exactly was added at that time. So you can just kind of use that to audit your information as well. And then I'll go back and yeah, so it'll move much higher up on my report and it's no longer down at the bottom here. So yeah, very straightforward to audit your data, just to make sure your information is as accurate as possible. Any questions or I guess, does that make sense as to why we added that capability into the feature, just to make sure that, you guys have the ability to do that? All right. Sounds good. Okay, well, let me think. Oh, so as I was saying, there are just some metrics that you can immediately use to spot and infer certain things about your sensors or your fills or your deliveries. For example, customers that you might be over servicing, where you have a lot of days remaining at the time of fill, and your time between fills is very low. Customers that you might be either under servicing or the tanks are undersized. So where you might see the days remaining and the days between fill are basically the same amount of time, or you're there really frequently. That's a conversation that you can have with your customer. Whereas before, it may have just been kind of suggesting that to them. Now you can pull up this report and clearly show them like, hey, we visited you this frequently. We visited you this amount of times in the last 6 months. Would you be interested in a larger size tank? That's something that might be more compelling to them than just saying like, hey, this is something that we should do. I know Marcello, he's mentioned that he's spoken with several of his customers, and that's something that they're very interested in using for that purpose as well. Another thing that has come up, because some of the people, I'm trying to see, as this feature was kind of being built, our CEO and the Pulsa team in general worked closely with a lot of distributors to kind of make sure that we include things that they're interested in. And so days remaining, days between fills, as we've been kind of showing customers and getting more feedback from them, some customers have even referenced like, hey, we own our carbo trucks. Our other gases are fulfilled by, these larger distributors, but our carbo trucks, we're in control of them. So we should really be in control to how often we're visiting our customers. Something that another customer mentioned to us was, hey, it's going to be our goal where we don't want to be visiting any one customer more than once a week. So that's something that they're kind of looking into, like, hey, why are we visiting these customers more than once a week? We need to figure out why that is. And if it's not because we're dropping a whole truck off, then yeah, that's definitely something that we can figure out. And speaking about goals, that's something else that you can easily track on the dashboard as well. You guys have probably noticed that there's this bright red column in the middle of the screen. That is due to our goal up at the top, where our average fill percentage is set to greater than 70% for our goal. This can be modified to anything that you'd like. So if your goal is to have average fills of 50%, so if you want to make sure that at least 50% of the tank is being filled when you're going to any customer, that's something that you can track on this page, and you'll notice anything that isn't hitting your goal is going to show up for you in bright red, and those customers or locations that are meeting your goal are going to show up in green. There's a couple of different options for goals, like number of fills. I think you guys can see this drop down, but I'll just go through them. Number of fills, between fills, minimum fill percentage, and days remaining. So you can modify this to whatever you would like, and kind of just go from there. So you can see things just move around. And let's say that you guys now want to take this information and share it with a coworker. You've compiled these reports, they look really good. You found some enticing information that you want to make sure other people see. The first question that we always have, which I did see in the chat, is the ability to export. While this isn't in the first release, because we wanted to have just kind of a simple version of what we expect to have down the line, for this very first release, we will, I believe, expect to have it in the second release, which I think is towards the end of this last quarter, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, that is coming, but in the meantime, it is very easy to share saved views right in the dashboard. So if you guys are familiar with making saved views on your sensor list, it's the exact same thing. You would just go to saved, click save this view, and then I think I just accidentally cleared it, but I already had it saved here. So you would just go ahead and save the view, name it whatever you would like. My reports, goal of average fill greater than 70% maybe, and save it. And then same thing as the filtered views or the filtered save views on their sensor page. You can copy it, put it in a text, put it in an email, send it off to your coworker, and they'll be able to open it right up and see exactly what you're seeing. They can save it on their side so they can have it forever. So really easy to share in between team members and anyone that has access to the Pulsa dashboard. Any questions, or I guess does that make sense? I did see the question about exporting in the chat. That is always, I think, the immediate question right after. Oh, we have a couple of people in the waiting room. Let me let them in. Awesome. Let me jump back really quickly to that conversion that I had mentioned earlier. So previously I had my report also, actually, let me load my report one more time. There we go. So I have my report all in pounds. Say I wanted to see it in a different unit, and I'll just select inches of water column. You'll notice some of these sensors are now saying, hey, I don't know what this information is when it comes to the unit that you've selected. So for example, this is a scale. It probably only has units in pounds. So if I did want to view it in inches, you would just need to add a conversion, and we make it really easy just to add the conversion right into the report. Once you do this for any one product, all of the other products or all of the other sensors connected to that product are going to update as well. You only ever have to do this once. So if you do notice, hey, I want to see all my carbos in pounds, you just have to update that conversion once, and then you'll never have to do it again. These reports will look great forever. So yeah, very easy to update conversions. I can actually just show you what that would look like just so you guys can see. We'll say 54 inches, add the conversion. And then you'll see that message went away and it immediately updated to inches for me. And I believe that is all of the overview of the reporting dashboard. So now that I have this overview or this tutorial complete, I want to hear from you guys and know what you guys think in regards to first impressions. Are there similar tools that you guys are using to accomplish this information? One thing that we were hearing a lot as we were asking customers about this or showing this off to customers is that some people were just tracking this stuff or some of this stuff on spreadsheets. And that's kind of what we're trying to get rid of. No more spreadsheets. I know everybody really loves spreadsheets, but yeah. Hopefully this will get rid of spreadsheets for you, make this information much more accessible. If you aren't tracking this information, give you a way to track it. But yeah, is anyone out there, are they using a similar tool or making their own spreadsheets? How does this compare?
Well, good morning, Jasmine. We're not using spreadsheets, but in the chat rooms, obviously exporting it to a spreadsheet so that we can manipulate it and use it and tailor it, to specific people in our organization, because, it'd be nice to be able to pull out a branch and say like carbo fills and stuff like that and send it to individuals. So that's kind of what we're looking for. But you guys have come a long way with this reporting, and it's it's got incredible information. It's just trying to figure out how to pull it out and send it on to people. So it's you guys are making good headway. So thank you.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm gonna echo Eric. This is Adam. tagging it for the location, being able to pull it per location, sharing it with our branch managers and all that. Of course, we can pull it. I can teach them to pull it. We can talk about it. But of course, rather than just pulling it and me copy and paste into a spreadsheet and let them know where they're at, of course, being able to export it. But the data is awesome so far.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much for that feedback. And then we do definitely intend to make or add additional metrics, to add exporting and add additional functionality. That is kind of like our main, not purpose, but kind of with like showing off this webinar, is getting feedback from you guys. If it's not, you know, in this chat, if you guys kind of start playing with it and have ideas or things, that metrics that you guys know you want to have in your organization, that really is what we want to hear from you guys, because we want to build something that's accessible, that makes sense for you guys to use, and has the information that you care about. So yes, please let us know, you know, what you want to see, because we always take that into consideration as we build these things out. So yeah, whoops. Thank you guys for the feedback.
I would also encourage anybody, if you want to set up a separate one-on-one with Jasmine, she can walk you through your particular data and kind of obviously show you some things. One thing Jazz customers also asked about too is runouts. So how could they filter and find that in the system?
Oh, gotcha. So quick note on runouts. That is something that in future releases we intend on making really nice and smooth, like where I don't know what it'll look like because I'm not the one building it, of course, but it's going to be really nice and easily detectable, or how those runouts are found. But in the meantime, something that you can do to spot that is you can use like a max fill percentage. Let me clear these out so they're a little bit easier to see. So you could go to max fill percentage, and this is basically telling you this is the highest fill that happened for the period of time that you selected. So some of these make sense. Okay, 50%, 88%, that's good. But as you go down the line, you may see a few that are like this one, 94%, getting closer and closer to 100%. So this one right here, 113.68%. Let me click on it. Yeah. Here we go. So there's this one where you can start seeing like, oh, these fills were all of the tank capacity. That most likely was a run out. So yeah, you can see it went right down to 0. Same thing here, and here, where those tanks did go empty. So that's kind of like a way that you can find runouts at the moment, is just kind of using that max fill percentage and viewing the tanks or sensors that are getting really close or above 100%. Does that make sense? Or but yeah, the runouts I know is something that a lot of customers are interested in, and we've heard that feedback. And I think there's a couple of other things that they're taking into consideration. For example, like when a technician might be working on the field, they do something and then the sensor might just be reading 0 for that short period of time. We wouldn't necessarily want that to be considered a run out. So there's like a couple of other things that they're considering just to make sure that the information is going to be as valid as possible. But that is, I know, something that they are going to have in later releases. But if there is, again, ways that you guys want it represented or other metrics, please let us know. We need the feedback. Let me see here. I had a couple of other questions that I wrote down in case everyone was a little shy. I guess, yeah, based on what we've covered so far, just kind of, you can put this in the chat if you don't necessarily want to speak up about it. Does this dashboard, does it seem pretty user-friendly, pretty easy to use? You can put like a thumbs up, you know, emoji downs, thumbs down emoji, cowboy emoji, you know, however you feel. But we hope that these things are user friendly. They feel good. But yeah, do you guys feel this is user friendly? Do you guys feel good about this? What are your guys' thoughts here? Thank you, Eric. Thank you.
Thanks.
I know Adam's not shy. Don't act shy.
I'm not shy. I think it's great. I'm able to use it. I think it's awesome. But I've got a little bit of tailored help from Jasmine quite often. We're BFFs, so yeah, that's enough. But it's pretty easy.
That's awesome. And thank you guys again for joining. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to learn more about this feature. We really love making things that you guys like, and we always want to hear your feedback. I know it might not come immediately because this was maybe a lot of information at once. This is the first time that we had this, and we wanted to make it a real big a lot of information for you, so I know it's going to be something real nice to jump into. But yeah, we want your guys' feedback. Please let us know as you guys go through it. As far as resources, we have videos on YouTube, we have the Help Center, and then as Marcello mentioned, feel free to contact us. And we would love to set up time to kind of work with you guys individually if you guys are interested to talk about like, what does my data look like? How do I set things up in my account? What should I tag things like based off what I care about? We're more than happy to kind of spend time doing that with you guys. So feel free to let us know. We have a little bit of time left. I guess I'll just rattle off some things that we have upcoming or some things in the past. Chart installs. We have a partnership with Chart where they will install differential pressure and headspace pressure sensors for you guys. So if you guys are ordering new tanks, they will do that for you and probably maybe save you guys a little bit of time installation wise. So that's a thing. Marcello can help you guys with that, or there's a what do you call it? Something on the website.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, there's an announcement about that where you guys can find information or contact Marcello and he'll let you guys know. We have some really exciting hardware announcements coming up. I think those are going to announce next month. So keep in touch for those. I think it's going to be really exciting stuff, or it is really exciting stuff. GATA is coming up. Marcello will be visiting or going, and you guys can see him there. But yeah, I think that's kind of I'm trying to think. Did I miss anything, Marcello or Megan or Dave?
If you are going to GATA, or even if you're not, we have a webinar next week, next Wednesday. So we have a sneak peek of one of our new products we're launching next month. So if you want to catch that, let me know, and we can obviously talk about that. If you can't make it to GATA, obviously ping me. We could talk about that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I thought it was great. Thanks for covering everything. And then, yeah, likewise, if there's a different way that you'd use the system or something else you'd want to extrapolate from the data, let us know. We've learned a lot talking to customers and kind of saying like, hey, I like this because I know that this nitrogen truck only has 3,000 gallons, and seeing this all together, I can now plan my routes accordingly. Say, hey, they're only going through 1,000, or they're going through this in this time. So if there's other ways that you would use it, let us know, and we can obviously, build better products with your feedback. So thanks everybody, and thanks Jazz for putting this together. It's great.
No problem. Anything you guys wanted to bring up, anything you guys wanted to ask about, reports related or otherwise, we have a bit of time. So, feel free to ask any questions, any comment, feedback, anything at all. And then of course, if you guys don't have any questions, thanks again for joining us, and yeah. We'll stick around, but yeah, thank you guys for joining us. We really appreciate it. And we are always here to help you guys, and thank you.